Good morning and welcome to the Real Outdoors, where we talk about all the great adventures you can have in the outdoors and the gear that will help get you there. Be sure to click that red subscribe button and don't forget to click the notification bell so you get notified about all our latest content. As you can tell from the title, today we are talking about everyday carry knives. Now, I gotta be straight with you. I really don't know what the best everyday carry knife is. It's gonna vary by what you need. I'm gonna give you my philosophy on everyday carry knives, and I'm gonna go through some of the everyday carry knives I've used over the last few years, and I'll talk about what I'm carrying right now for my everyday carry knife. All these knives I'm gonna talk about are folding knives. I typically don't carry a fixed blade knife other than when I'm hunting. That's about the only time I carry a fixed blade knife with me. I end up very far in the outdoors. I think a fixed blade knife is the best knife possible in a survival situation, which is something I could find myself in during a hunting trip. And so that's part of the reason I carry a fixed blade knife. I also feel like a fixed blade knife is the best knife for self-defense. And again, being in the backcountry with wild animals, there may come a time, even though I'm armed with a firearm typically, I also want to have that fixed blade knife as a backup for self-defense against any animal attacks and things like that. Let me start off with talking to you about my philosophy about everyday carry knives. I see everyday carry knives as a utility knife. I want to be able to use it for anything that I need a knife for throughout the day. What that means to me is I really don't want to spend a fortune on an everyday carry knife. There are some very nice everyday carry knives out there, you know, from Benchmade and Spyderco, and you will spend a fair bit of money on that. I try to stay under $50 with my everyday carry knife because I'm going to use it all the time. That being said, I expect it to stand up and stay sharp, not break, not have the tip break off on me, and be able to use it for all the things you would use a knife for, from opening boxes to even using it like a screwdriver or to pry something open. I've used it for all of those things when I use an everyday carry knife. So those are kind of the things I'm looking for. You're not gonna see a really expensive folder in my everyday carry knives. You're gonna see some fairly inexpensive knives, and that's because I see it as a utility item. Doesn't have to be super, super nice. Doesn't have to look super, super nice. I just want it to function when I need it to function. All that being said, let's get started with some of my everyday carry knives that I've used over the last few years. I'm going to start with the Leatherman Wave. I have to mention this case is the Clip and Carry case. Clip and Carry is the manufacturer, and it's just a Kydex sheath for my Leatherman Wave, and I absolutely love this thing. It's great. I carried the Leatherman Wave with me for years. This was my everyday carry multi-tool, not just a knife. Obviously it has a knife, has a straight edge knife, and then it has a serrated knife, but it also has pliers, and one of my favorite tools on it is the scissors. And of course it has a Phillips / straight slot screwdriver that of course you can get bit kits for that and have different types of bits for your Leatherman. This was extremely useful to me. I love my Leatherman Wave. As far as I'm concerned, best multi-tool out there. This is the third one I've owned. Absolutely love it. But I carried it on my hip in a sheath, or like this in the Clip and Carry holster that I have for it now. But I found that it conflicted with other things that I'm carrying on my hip. So I just don't carry it as often anymore. I have gone to something I can carry in my pocket. So initially what I did after the Leatherman Wave is go to something small that was hard for me to notice in my pocket. So that's when I went to this, which is basically just a knockoff of the Buck 55, which is half the size of the Buck 110. I love my Buck 110, but it's not really an EDC knife. It's a little big for EDC, but this is perfect. It fits right in your pocket. It's got a good sharp blade on it. Hardly even noticed I was carrying it. That was my next EDC knife. I actually still really like this as an option. The only issue is it only comes with the knife, and it is kind of small, as you can see. Not super big. You can see here's a standard size Swiss Army knife compared to the Buck 55. One of the things I found with the Buck 55 knockoff that I carried every day is there were certain things from my Leatherman Wave that I was really missing. One of those things was a saw. I use a saw quite a bit. I'm in the woods camping or hunting, and I find that I really like having that saw as a tool on my everyday carry knife. Comes in very handy. Now when I'm hunting, I carry a Wicked saw, which is, you know, a fairly good size folding saw. So usually I'm okay with that. I found that I used it more when I'm camping. And so maybe when I'm camping, I'll jump up to something that does have that saw blade on it, like my Leatherman Wave. But when I determined that I needed a slightly bigger knife for my everyday carry knife, I moved up to a Swiss Army knife. Now I love Swiss Army knives. And this one I bought and started carrying based on certain criteria. So I wanted a bigger knife blade, and of course it comes with a bigger knife. But, like I said, I also wanted that saw. And I love the saw on my Swiss Army knives. It works exactly like the saw on my Leatherman Wave. And so that was one of the criteria. Another was, I love those scissors. I missed having those scissors when I needed a pair of scissors. You know, to cut out a label for something you're shipping. Just simple stuff like that, but I loved having scissors. I think this is the Huntsman. I'll look it up and find out the exact model that I have here and put of course, all the links will be down in the description, so you'll be able to see what they are. But you know, I just kept looking at Swiss Army knives until I found the model that had just what I wanted and not too much. Another thing I love about Swiss Army knives is they have that toothpick and tweezers. Both of those come in very handy in the outdoors. As I've said in previous videos, I use a Colgate Wisp to brush my teeth when I'm camping or backpacking, but it's nice to have that toothpick to get stuff, especially like I eat a lot of beef jerky when I'm backpacking. Beef jerky really gets stuck in between your teeth, and it's nice to have a toothpick on your Swiss Army knife in order to get that beef jerky out from between your teeth. And of course, you're going to encounter ticks when you're camping and backpacking in Florida and the Southeast, and so the tweezers comes in real handy for that. So this was basically the smallest Swiss Army knife I could get that had all the tools that I wanted on it, or that I found that I needed as an everyday carry knife. So I carried that for quite a while as my everyday carry knife. I did find though that it was a little too much to carry around every day just around town. Now it's one thing when you're out camping or hunting or backpacking to have something a little bigger with you with more tools that you know you will need. So it tends to only go with me when I go on an outdoor adventure. So that got me looking at the super small, the classic SD Swiss Army knife. Of course, it has the scissors that I wanted and has a knife. Although it's very small, it does get most of the day-to-day urban setting stuff done. And of course, it has the tweezers and toothpick to go along with it. But again, I found that that was just too small. It's kind of hard to use, and Swiss Army knives, other than one model, don't come with a lockable blade. So this one I don't find stays as well as the bigger Swiss Army knives in place. So I didn't really use that one for very long. Now a couple other knives I used along the way. These are both Gerbers. I don't remember the exact brand. They're very small. Airframe, I think is what they call it, or the frame. You can see it's just a very lightweight frame. I wouldn't call them super sharp or anything like that. I keep these in my truck now, right up in my visor. So I use these basically just to open boxes from the UPS store. That's about it. Another one I looked at was the Bear Grylls Gerber folder. This is a folding version of a fixed blade that I have. The Bear Grylls Ultimate Pro, I think is what it's called. But it basically looks just like this, except it's a fixed blade. I love the rubber coated handle. You never worry about losing your grip. Of course, it has a thumb stud, has a lock on the spine, but I love the rubber grip, super durable. It's got a lanyard hole on it. Even though it's fairly good size, this is actually a fairly lightweight everyday carry knife. One downside is it doesn't have the pocket clip on it. On either side, it comes with a nylon sheath, so then I'm back to carrying it on my hip, which is what I was trying to avoid in the first place. So I haven't really used that one very much, but I do like it. It's a very big, broad blade with both serrated sections and straight sections. Lots of good jimping on the top. I mean, and like I said, very lightweight for the size of knife it is. Just haven't found myself using it very often. I kind of went crazy. I wanted to find something that could compare to my Leatherman Wave that I could throw in my pocket, and that is the Swiss Army Champ. And you can see I've added a pocket clip to it. This is also from Clip and Carry, who makes the sheath for my Leatherman Wave. But I mean, this thing is basically like the Leatherman Wave in a knife format. I've always wanted a Swiss Army Champ ever since I was a Boy Scout in my teens. I mean, this is what my Scoutmaster carried. He carried it in a leather holster on his hip, but I absolutely love this thing. It is super, super cool, and I've actually been carrying it quite a bit. I've just recently stopped carrying it, and it's mainly because of the size. It's just a little bulky. For obvious reasons, it comes with freaking every tool you can possibly imagine for a Swiss Army knife, including a pen. I don't think, yeah, it's got a pen in it. And then down here, I thought it had a loose rivet in it or something, but it's actually a straight pin. You know, when you need a straight pin all the time. But it is a cool knife. I really, really like it. It is heavy, it is bulky. Maybe only goes with me in the outdoors, but I've always wanted one, something I've always wanted to get myself. So I did. Can't remember, it's either a birthday present or a Christmas present, one of the two. Now we're going to get with what I'm carrying every day, whether I'm in the woods, not in the woods. I find that it works 99% of the time, and that 1% is when I carry this smaller Swiss Army knife that has, like I said, the few tools that I really felt were critical when I'm in the outdoors. And that is the Buck 112 Slim, pretty sure is what they call it. Of course, I'll put the right name down below. It is basically a very lightweight version of the Buck 112. Buck 110, one of my favorite knives of all time, is 3.75 inches. This blade is 3 inches. So it's very, very close to the Buck 110. It has the same drop point shape. It's made of the same high carbon 420 steel. They add a thumb stud to this Buck 112 that you won't find on the standard 112 or the standard 110, which I love. Makes it super easy to open. Has the spine lock like most Buck 110 and 112 knives do. It comes with a deep pocket carry, which I find works out perfectly, keeps it in my pocket right where I need it to go. It is reversible, so you can switch it out to a left hand clip rather than a right hand. I've got it set up for right hand. Comes right out of your pocket. Super easy to open. Like I said, this is the lightweight version, so they took the wood and brass off of the handle, made it a plastic handle. Super, super lightweight. It's a nice bigger blade, very similar to the Buck 110 that I absolutely love. Here's my one complaint with it, and I'm a little disappointed in Buck for this. My Buck 110 came very, very sharp, and I saw in the reviews that these slim 112s do not. They come somewhat dull, and the main thing too is this point was almost dull. It's almost a blunt point when I got it, and a lot of other people said the same thing. Now, I've sharpened it up. It's nice and sharp now. I can shave with it. I reshaped that point, so the point is very nice and sharp at the tip. Now it's fine, and I'm sure it'll hold that edge for a long time like all my other Buck knives do. But that was one downside. I'd like to see it come nice and sharp like most of my Buck knives do when I get them from Buck. But it's been a great knife. It's perfect. It's big enough for what I need it to do. It works for what I need it to do. They're about $25, $30, so they're cheap enough that if I mess it up, I'm not that worried about it. If I'm using it to cut boxes or paper or open packages, yeah, I might have to sharpen it again, but I'm not that concerned about damaging this knife. And the pocket clip really holds it in place. No matter where I'm going, what I'm doing, it really stays put in my pocket. So it's nice and easy just to slide it in there. Good to go. Got my pocket knife, hardly any weight at all, doesn't get in the way of the other stuff I have in my pocket. And so that is my current best everyday carry knife. I'd love to hear in the comments below what your best everyday carry knife is. Because like I said, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not sure I've found it yet in the Buck 112 Slim, but for right now, that is the best carry knife for me. The other thing I mentioned is best EDC knife. It's really up to you. What do you need it for? Do you want a super nice bench-made knife that costs you a small fortune? Go for it. That's great. For me, that's just not what I'm looking for. I'm gonna use that knife and I'm gonna use it hard. So I want it to last, I want it to be strong, but I don't wanna spend a fortune on it because I don't wanna have to worry if I lose it or I break it. But I'd love to hear what you guys are using. I'm sure I could find some ideas, and who knows, maybe next time I do an update of this video, we're talking about a different EDC knife. Appreciate you guys joining me. If you got something out of this video, be sure to click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can keep up with all of our latest content. And I look forward to seeing you in the real outdoors.